Well, I'm Connor,
And I'm Rutledge.
and we're Friends Stream Sports. Special edition here tonight. Not playing a video game. Rutledge, where are you at? Why are we talking over Zoom here this evening?
Oh man, Connor, I am out here and I'm so glad to see you. I know that last week I couldn't show myself. We had to have some things I had to attend to. I am in Georgia, actually, very away from home. I am in my wife's childhood home with her family, doing some family stuff here as we're away. Um, I'm ironically in her childhood bedroom, which is a little strange to be doing my sports show from her own room, but I have some cool stuff you're going to appreciate, Connor, so check this out. My father-in-law is really big into collecting baseball cards. He hasn't bought recent ones. He has ones from like back in the day. So I have this is dated from 1978. This is a Bobby Cox player and manager card that he
Whoa.
has. They want to show. I know. Isn't this thing really cool? It's paper. This is from Topps Chewing Gum. So it's got a whole bunch of stats on it when he played for Reno in Salem in 61 and Panama City. So it's got his major league and minor league batting averages. The
For
other
our
thing I have,
podcast listeners out there, it's a pretty nice looking baseball card.
it's in really good. Like I feel bad touching it with my skin. Like it's in really. Bobby Cox was born in May 21st of 1941. And
Whoa.
this has him at 6 feet, buck 85. But that's this. The other thing that we have, which I won't feel bad touching, is this in great in this plastic case. This is a autographed Hank Aaron Milwaukee Braves card. So those of you that don't know, that aren't hardcore baseball fans, the Atlanta Braves were out in Milwaukee at first. That's where Hank Aaron played for them. This is a young Hank Aaron card. This is huge because Hank Aaron recently passed away. So I told him I was doing the show. He really wanted me to show those off.
Ah, wonderful. Rutledge, I don't know what's more impressive that you have those baseball cards in the collection or that you have internet in Gray, Georgia.
I mean, it's a good place. We got some Wi-Fi. We got it dialed up. I did watch when we drove. It's about a 6-hour drive from where Connor and I live. The thermostat dropped 40 degrees from when I got in the car to when I got out of the car. So I've had to borrow some jackets
No
and
doubt.
some things. It's winter here.
Well, one of the great signs of spring, Rutledge, in the great state of Florida is the running of the Great American Race, which you got to go to last week.
I did. We hit up. Went to the Daytona 500 over in Daytona International Speedway. It was very cool. This year is actually the 20th anniversary of the passing away of Dale Earnhardt Sr. So something that they do in Daytona is whenever you have the third lap, everyone in the stands and on pit row will hold up 3 fingers for the entirety of the third lap because that's where Dale Earnhardt passed away. It's in turn 4. Before I talk about that, I actually went with our fantasy winner for the week. He's a good friend of mine. So shout out to Josh Wakely, who won. And what a wild week to start our fantasy campaigns, because there was 2 major wrecks that caused major car pileups, including one on lap 15 and one on lap 198, as well as congratulations to Michael McDowell, who had his very first win of all time. Connor, did you get to see that really big finish?
As you messing me, that was a little past my bedtime, but I know that not only, I mean, that was his first win, right? That's incredible. Your first, I mean, that's like literally your first win being the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
or your first win being like, it's not the title, but I mean, it's pretty much like the title. Like that's huge. That's the biggest race of the year.
It is, and Michael McDowell is actually the 10th person to get his first win at the Daytona 500. But I read this. He had the second longest winless streak of all time. The longest, so 358 starts. The longest was Michael Waltrip, which is 463 starts, who he won. Actually, he won his first race 20 years ago at the same Daytona 500 that Dale Earnhardt passed away. So it's a magical place. But you're
That
right.
it is.
For all of our non-NASCAR friends, the first race in NASCAR, the kickoff, that is, you're right, Connor, is the Super Bowl. Where most sports, it's at the end.
Any fun stories? I mean, it's there was a lot of fans there, especially in light of, a global pandemic. Any fun stories this year out there?
It was cool. So I've been a race fan since I was a kid. That's been my whole big thing. NASCAR has gone through a bit of a dip where the sport was at its high and pinnacle in the late 90s to early 2000s, even into the mid 2000s. And then it's kind of had a dip, but even with they usually have 100,000 fans. They had 30,000 because of COVID-19 protocols. The fan base, it's usually your classic people in jorts and a NASCAR t-shirt. There's now a new fan base that started coming. That's like in an event. I will say I saw a lot of mullets and a lot of Americana apparel on the younger fans that were there dressed up and showing out, than more on the classic fans. You still have your people that are, when you think of a NASCAR fan, they're there, but the experience was really cool. They still had all the vendors and everything. If you going to a NASCAR is like going to just a Southern road show. And they give you free t-shirts and give out a bunch of free stuff. But man, it was awesome. It's super fun.
Any fun vendors out there? Maybe I know you're a fan of chicken. Did you get to eat some chicken?
Oh man, I haven't told you. I haven't told you this story at all. So I am a huge Bojangles fan. To all of our listeners out there, just like we've learned this year that Connor is hairy, I am really into fried chicken at Bojangles. So there's a Bojangles vendor in Daytona. So me and my friends go up to the level that it's on. We walk the whole entire third floor of Daytona Speedway, which is long. We look around. I finally grab someone in a pole. I'm like, hey, where's the Bojangles? Said, I don't like it either, but it's gone. So my normal tradition is to go watch about half the race, get a box of tenders, get some sweet tea, get some Bo sauce, and they were gone. We didn't know what to do, and it had started raining. So we had heard about no Bojangles. The rain increased because the race had like a 5-hour rain delay. So we left. We ended up in a Cracker Barrel. I ate fried chicken there because I just really wanted it. But no Bojangles. Not even Bubba Watson's sponsor, DoorDash, could have solved my problems with Bojangles because there wasn't one close enough. So I was crushed.
I bet. Well, but speaking of DoorDash, I mean, yeah, I know you mentioned the sports kind of gone through a dip and having to go through some evolving pieces. I mean, before you'd think about Marlboro, cigarettes and Bud Light, whenever you thought about closed wheel racing, but now we got DoorDash. I mean, what do you think that's all about?
I thought that was really cool. It was neat because Bubba Wallace's team that he races on is half owned by Michael Jordan and half owned by one of the more recent Daytona 500 champions, Denny Hamlin. And I thought it was really neat that there's a new car with a new sponsor. Someone I was talking to, I said, well, nothing says 2020 like the fact that we were all at home, that DoorDash made so much revenue, they have a racing team. And that person made a point of, well, when 2 Big Macs on DoorDash is $40, of course they're going to have that NASCAR money. But it's good to see new sponsors in the race. You're right, Connor. Some classic ones I loved were McDonald's. STP is famous because of Richard Petty, Goodwrench because of Dale Earnhardt, Budweiser, Dale Earnhardt Jr. So it's good to see different sponsors. My favorite one was, have you ever heard of the shampoo Mane and Tail?
You mean one of the shampoos that's in the shower in the Bourne residence? Yeah, I've heard of it.
Mane and Tail is a NASCAR sponsor. They have a 00 car. I can't remember his name, but we cheered for the Mane and Tail as it went around the track. So when you do your fantasy lineup, I feel like when we get to mid-season and you got to save your good drivers for the end of the playoff, you need to pick Mane and Tail.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I always need to pick Mane and Tail. Maybe have try to get an exception.
Yeah, maybe.
I own Mane and Tail. So like I kind of
I did not know this. I mean, that explains the locks of Born Love are Mane and Tail.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So any other parting words here on the NASCAR front? It was really fun to kick off the fantasy season. Excited for a good fantasy season in NASCAR. Should be a lot of fun. But any other parting Daytona thoughts?
I'm really excited to see what this season is going to look like. NASCAR has added a lot more road courses, including where they will race this weekend is at Daytona International Speedway on the road course. And Connor and I are going to pick a pole winner later on in the show. But there's also Charlotte has what's called the Charlotte Roval, which is their road course. So it's good to see that the sport's doing a little different. It's not just all short to medium track racing of all just left turns of the bad vibe they get, but there seems to be some new life back into NASCAR. and it's exciting to see. So can't
Nice.
wait.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as we leave turn one and head into turn two, we're gonna do a little step back, talk some NFL. We have a special guest who might be coming on soon. We're really excited about that. But Rutledge, I beat you so bad in the Super Bowl picks that you had a tough time showing your face. So I'm giving you the chance, and I'm giving our viewers and listeners the chance to kind of give a few last thoughts on the Super Bowl as well as a few thoughts moving forward. So, how surprised were you?
I was really surprised. It was a 31-9 game. Um, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs were my early in the season. They're going to be a really big deal pick. I thought this is the team. You got to follow them. This is who it's going to be. But to take that team that looks so good against Buffalo, kind of push their way through the season, and get them put up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which had the names we recognized, but it finally seemed like they clicked. I mean, I'm happy for Tampa. Tom Brady had a really good showing. Their defense, which looked incredible against Green Bay, did exactly the same thing they did to Green Bay. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were uncomfortable. They didn't play like themselves. So it reminded me, it really kind of reminded me of watching Peyton Manning's last win of the Super Bowl when they played the Colts, and how the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton, they had this explosive offense and he was MVP and everyone thought they were going to be something. Then they got stacked up against just a really good defense with a really good quarterback and they got absolutely mauled. So I thought it was a big deal. Connor, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest surprise, right, is that the Chiefs did not come out in the second half and overcome their deficits and their deficiencies, right? Within the Super Bowl last year, the Chiefs Super Bowl run last year, we had a big, every week it was like they were down a lot and had a ton of problems. And they just kept on overcoming and overcoming. Um, I don't think that this has a lot to do with Patrick Mahomes necessarily on the game. So I would say the biggest surprise was just the lack of the Chiefs being able to overcome a Bucks pass rush. Being, the Chiefs couldn't overcome having backup offensive linemen in their blocking, and just a good solid game plan by Brady and the Bucks. So I would say that is the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise looking back at the game. I think moving forward, I think I think that, and especially as it relates to the Chiefs, it is difficult. Like, it's difficult to get to that game, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
as a Seahawks fan, Russell Wilson got to that second Super Bowl, and you know, there's always the yearly anniversary of the day that the Seahawks should have run the ball. And Russell Wilson's put up a ton of great stats and been on some good teams, and they just haven't been able to put it together. So you got to strike while the iron's hot. And, man, I remember in the first half, even pointing out to my wife, there was a play where Patrick Mahomes was falling down on his back, flicked the ball 40 yards with his wrist, and it fell out of Tyreek Hill's hands in the end
Mm-hmm.
zone for the touchdown. And I'm like, like that's an important play. So I think for Mahomes, I don't think that's necessarily going to be a big deal. I think for the Chiefs, any team that gets there and loses it, I mean, you never know if you're going to get the injury bug for next season. There's just so many things you don't know moving forward.
So, to bring up something we talked about in one of our previous shows, which for everyone out there, we have all of our previous content on YouTube. So you should check out our previous shows, and this is a highlight. Connor, you brought up the question of Patrick Mahomes' legacy if he beats Tom Brady. So what does this kind of show about Patrick Mahomes for them to dominate so much, and then for them to dominate through the season, and then to get this dominated? What does that make him look like?
Immortal,
Yeah.
not immortal. Yeah, I mean, he's just like any quarterback who's playing from their back, right? You can't. And I think that the way the big piece is gonna be, okay. It's not just overcoming adversity within the course of a quarter or a game, but it's overcoming adversity, right? Champagne problems. Okay, you got punched in the mouth in the Super Bowl, but how you overcome that adversity going into the offseason, going into next season, and things like that. So, what's Patrick Mahomes going to do moving forward? I know they've backed up the proverbial Brinks truck to him, but like you can massage those numbers to get players, right? So, what's Patrick Mahomes going to do to work his contract to get the players in to be successful while still getting paid enough, whatever that number is? Not disputing over any amount anybody makes, but there's a salary cap, and you always have to be cognizant of that. So I think the reason why we can't talk about Patrick Mahomes' career right now is the reason why when Tim Tebow was leaving college and he put out his first book and everybody was looking at me sideways why I didn't read Tim Tebow's first book, is that the story's not written yet. We're mid-book. We're really in the early book for Mahomes. So I think this is the end of a chapter, and I think to watch him take that next step is to really see what happens when he's got an off season to deal with adversity, kind of getting punched in the mouth, and then seeing what happens from there.
Absolutely.
So now I know we've been talking a lot about Mahomes, but what does this mean for Brady?
Well, before we get into Tom Brady, I would like to say that the way that Tom Brady celebrated the Super Bowl in Tampa is the exact same way I would celebrate winning a Super Bowl in Tampa. So I know that he's been getting a little flack, and some people have not liked it. I thought it was incredible. I thought he had a good time. I see Tom Brady's just going to keep going. They have a lot of people with contracts ending. What are they going to do with that? I know, Connor, you have some takes on that, but I think Brady should stay. I think Brady should be in there. He strikes as the type of guy, I told the Julian Edelman story once, that he's never paid Julian Edelman because he keeps losing bets. So I don't see someone he doesn't seem like a John Elway who dominated and is going to walk away. He's going to come back and try to repeat. And the NFC South, especially with Drew Brees rumored to retire, is a very wide open conference right now to where you can cruise your way into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely Tom Brady should stay. And for anybody who's tuning in live right now on Twitch, would love to hear some of y'all's thoughts. What is he? He's getting paid $25 million next year. Maybe he takes a little bit of a pay cut. Maybe he signs an extension and shifts some money around like he's done. But maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I think one of the nice parts about Tom Brady is he is not the number one earner in his family. So it is not on him to bring home all of the bacon. I think that the interesting thing is Arians is really good for Brady at this point in his career. Arians is a guy who will give Brady a rest day, and not exactly known for the grinder. What is it? Cocktails at 5 for Bruce Arians. While Bill Belichick is in his 4th hour of a special teams film at 5:00. I think the big thing to watch with Brady, because he had to build rapport with Byron Leftwich, is to see what happens with Byron Leftwich. I think that could be an interesting story to follow. I know we talked a lot about folks on the Chiefs roster or their coaching staff, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Kafka. But I mean, hey, Byron Leftwich is an offensive coordinator for a team that scored a ton of points and won a Super Bowl. And even the years before with Jameis, I mean, he was still doing some good stuff. So that'll be an interesting story to follow. I would hope that Brady would talk to Leftwich and say, hey, let's get let's try to run this back. But no, I don't think Tom Brady needs anybody to motivate him. So I think Tom Brady just needs a guy to help facilitate a football team, and that's Bruce Arians. And for Tom to be the main motivator, and his presence to really make a big impact on that team.
Yeah, Bruce Arians really he had a quote early in the seasons where he said they started letting Brady coach, and they're embracing this sort of wise old man to group up together this younger guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to keep them going. So it seems like Tom is almost turning into a LeBron James, to where he's a player's coach, but he's still working and still playing, still grinding and getting it done. So we'll see what they do for contract negotiations. Do they bring back Antonio Brown? Does Gronk play another season? Does Leonard Fournette play another season? But still, kudos to them. It was amazing to see them bring it together. I know I was surprised.
No doubt, dude. Speaking of players moving, I remember texting you after some breaking news from Houston. I think, and it's like, is everybody just, what's going on down in Houston, man? First we had Deshaun Watson, now J.J. Watt wanting to leave Houston and requesting his release. What do you think about that?
I think also you got to bring up James Harden also leaving the city. I feel bad for the city of Houston. No one wants to live there anymore. Maybe it's the traffic. I've heard Houston is growing like crazy. Here's something interesting I pulled off of NFL.com, Connor, is that there are 9 teams that are a possible landing spot for J.J. Watt. I'm going to kind of go down with them, and I want your sort of takes. I have one that I think is going to happen. I have one that I don't want to happen, and then I have one I would love to see. But the teams are the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Titans, the Bills, Browns, Ravens, Seahawks, and the Rams. So everyone on this, some have more cap space than others. Some would have to make some adjustments and stuff. There are some teams where he glues in, but who is I would love to see this happen for him to land somewhere.
We're going to agree on this, Rutledge. And the color brown has been moving up in my favorite colors over the course of this season. If the Browns could figure out a way to get J.J. Watt along with Myles Garrett and, not have to lose one of their big offensive players, that could be a ton of fun. And the Browns would definitely take a gigantic step forward and really take that defense into incredibly elite level and just have a lot of fun personalities. I think in some ways, Myles Garrett might not get along with J.J. Watt, and that would make for really interesting television. Or J.J. Watt and Baker Mayfield. I think the blue collar mentality that J.J. brings could odd to say Cleveland Browns have flashy players, but they kind of do. There could be some, along with just a lot of talented players, could have some interesting personality clashes that could be really fun to watch.
I'm with you. I love the thought of him going to Cleveland. They have this just grit, love our city, love who we are, get after it vibe. They're really hyped in on who they are. He would also, I think, be good for just the city of Cleveland with all the humanitarian work that he likes to do for Riverwood City he's a part of. I really love the feel of J.J. Watt going to Cleveland. You bring up a really solid point, though. There are a lot of personalities. So, is Baker Mayfield going to like that J.J. Watt is going to be talking about clean eating in the locker room while Baker Mayfield is drinking his post-practice shake along with his Bud Light as he walks out of the locker room, or according to all the TV commercials, walks into his living room? Is he gonna mesh well? Who knows, right? So
Who
we both
knows? And we our special guest star. We gotta ask him what he thinks about this when he comes on here just in a quick moment. But
perfect timing.
Who's someone that you really don't want? Who's one of those teams that you really don't want to see J.J. Watt go to?
I don't want to see him go to the LA Rams. It feels like they have to do some work for him to go. And this is once again as a Seahawks fan, speaking in a fan base, which makes me a horrible sports broadcaster. But it would be really good for the Rams if they pick him up, because the Rams have Matt Stafford, who is, in my opinion, a better quarterback than Jared Goff. They'll probably make some moves to support Stafford in the draft. To have Aaron Donald, who I love that Aaron Donald's number is 99, because that's what he wants all of his Madden rankings to be, is 99. And have him, I guess, who would wear 99 between the two of them? Him next to J.J. Watt will be an absolute murder system. So as a fan, it would be hard to watch. As someone who has a love for the game and seeing a good football team go together, imagine a defense that's Jalen Ramsey, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, with a power offense with Sean McDermott as a coach. They would be very hard to deal with. So I really wouldn't want to see that. What about you?
Real briefly, the Cowboys. J.J. Watt's really good, but can be overhyped. I think that if J.J. Watt went to the Cowboys, that would just take that hype train into orbit. But with that, We might have Justin Herbert on the line,
Oh, if we have Justin Herbert on the line, this is incredible.
but we might have somebody almost as good, if not probably better than Justin Herbert. You ready?
So it's not Justin Herbert.
Let's see.
There he is. Look at
Dan-
him.
We're here.
Friend of the
Can
you
show,
hear me?
Daniel Mogg. How you doing, man?
Are we live right now?
We are live right
on
now.
Twitch.
Oh wow. First
It's
time.
First time. What's
Well, I
up,
guess
Daniel?
first time with Rutledge.
Yeah. So good to see you. Good to have you. To all of us out there, podcast wise, this is our golden friend of the show, Daniel Mogg. He's made some guest appearances. He watches. He comments. And now you're out here and jumping in. We're going to do some football talk tonight, Daniel. So how are you? How is Seattle?
I'm still waiting for merch.
So wait, we're working on it, right? 2021
Okay.
is a long time. We have to come up with sayings. I want a t-shirt that says slants never fail, based off my very complex Madden game calling.
I know one slant that failed. Still hurts me to this day.
I actually brought that up like 5 minutes ago. That there's a yearly anniversary of the time that a ball should have been thrown, or a ball should have been run. Pardon me.
It should have been ran. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the shortest guest spot on Friend Stream Sports. Make sure you subscribe to us on Twitch and follow us on YouTube.
Well, dude, you
No,
were
I'm a
you
big-
were down in Tampa for the Super Bowl. Were you on one of those boats? Did Tom try to throw you a Lombardi trophy?
Were you filming the
was.
Snapchat content?
I tried all my contacts to see if I could get a credential to get on those boats, but it was pretty strict this year, unfortunately. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall or a content capturer to be on one of those Super Bowl parade boats. That's for sure.
You should have pitched it as you were an avocado tequila vendor and that you could get on a boat.
I know. I just ran out of resources there, so I guess I didn't have as much pull as I thought.
Was it avocado, tequila, or Zima? I've heard that be thrown around a little bit.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some avocado tequila rolling out on the shelves here shortly.
Oh,
Also,
my
Tom Brady has been in the league a long enough time to where he probably does get down with some Zimas. He probably is a
yes.
Zima guy.
I don't know if you guys watched Colin Cowherd today, but he did say if you win 7 Super Bowls, you can wear your hat backwards. Brady earned that right. So
Whoa!
Wow.
yeah.
That is huge.
And
for
that's a
Colin
hard and
Cowherd.
fast rule.
That's a very hard and fast calling rule for sure.
But well, Daniel, man, we're so pumped to have you with us here this evening. Want to hear from you. We heard a thing you weren't able to get to in terms of that boat parade, but any fun Super Bowl stories this year in Tampa that it maybe is a little different, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing from previous Super Bowls.
Like, were you
Yeah,
weekend dancer number 47?
I was not. It was actually really fun. I haven't been a spectator at a game in a long time. Maybe since Connor's college games was the last time I was a spectator at a football game. So just to go for the first time, as a
Mighty Wheaton
fan was,
Thunder.
yeah, exactly. So just to go as a fan for the first time in a while was just really fun, just to kind of relax, take in the atmosphere. And that to me is, I've been blessed and fortunate to go to 5 Super Bowls now. And the pregame atmosphere at a Super Bowl is like unlike any other sporting event I've been to. Just the buzz, the anticipation beforehand. And I was kind of curious before how that would go, obviously being limited capacity, but the juice was still there. And I would say being the Bucks being the hometown team, just the buzz and electricity in the stadium was fantastic beforehand.
Was there anybody at the taco truck? I know the taco truck is a Tampa tradition.
I did not go to the taco truck this trip. It was they had like blocked off all of the stadium for the most part. So you pretty much just rolled up, and there was no, at least on an NFL official parking lot, there was no tailgating allowed. I think fans were doing it at the some of the stores and whatnot across the street, but it was pretty tight compared to I'd say a normal NFL game or even a Super Bowl.
Okay.
No doubt. Well, that
Very cool.
there you go, man. Super
So
fun. I know you spent some time down in Tampa, so it's probably fun to be at some places and be like, oh, there is, this high profile person that I usually just see on TV at a place that I used to go hang out at a lot when I lived in Tampa.
Yeah, we did. We did. We did run into Shaq, which was pretty cool.
that's cool.
Good.
Ironically, we were walking and I was like, "Oh man, that's Shaq," and my wife Lainey was like, "I missed him." I was like, how do you miss him? He's literally probably one of the largest human beings on the planet. So that we got a nice laugh and a kick out of that. But I would say the one big bummer of this Super Bowl one, knowing how much time I spent in Tampa looking forward to going home, was that it just wasn't quite the same from that standpoint, as far as maybe the star-studdedness that you see at a regular Super Bowl, because literally most of the time wherever you're walking in that city, you run into somebody.
That's awesome.
For sure. Well, speaking of large humans, we did have one more question we wanted to ask you. We've been talking about J.J. Watt, who is another rather large human.
Yes.
And the stars are not very bright in Houston right now. That's for sure. That's one way to put it.
Yeah, Houston, we have a problem.
But I'm gonna read you some teams,
Okay.
and I will want to hear from you just as a fan. What's a team that you would love to see JJ Watt go to, and what's a team where you go, I'm not into that at all. All right, so I'm going to read you some team names here. This is off
Just
of NFL.com.
as a fan of the team, as based on the team that I root for, or this is more objectively?
Yes.
I'll be honest, my take was 100% subjective of where I don't want him to go. And I think when you hear the list, I bet you can guess where I said as a Seahawks fan.
Okay.
All right. So this is a 3-part question. What you want, what you don't want, and what did Rutledge say?
Okay.
So we've got Steelers, Cowboys, Packers, Titans, Bills, Browns, Ravens, Seahawks, Rams.
Well, I think there's a couple different scenarios. First, I'll answer your question as a fan. Would love to see him on the Seahawks. I think that the pass rushing, that element, maybe I don't know how they could afford him and Carlos Dunlap. That's a question for John Schneider, but if you have two of those guys on your edge, can't imagine that's a bad pass rush. I would say from a Hollywood storybook ending, going to Pittsburgh to play with his brother, I think would be pretty fantastic. And for me as a fan, keeping him in the AFC is always a good thing. I know there's been a lot of talk about him going to the Packers. He's a Wisconsin guy, all that. Would definitely not want to see him on the Packers. The Packers pass rush has given the Seahawks enough trouble the last couple of years, and just adding someone like him to the mix would not be ideal. So I don't know. He's a great player. I had the fortunate time to interview him once, and he was just super great, fantastic guy. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time with him, but based on like kind of what you see from the outside, he definitely seems like the guy that he is, which is always great to hear.
Awesome. Well, I was sad that the Raiders weren't on that list, but
yeah,
there was a shout out to getting him to Cleveland.
That'd be really cool.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Myles Garrett on that line would be pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Where do you guys? What did you guys say?
We both said we want him to go to Cleveland. Connor said he does not want to see him go to Dallas because of the star factor that the Cowboys have. I said I do not want to see J.J. Watt end up in Los Angeles.
Agreed.
Next to Aaron Donald, because especially
Agreed.
with all the conversation that Russell Wilson has had with offensive line, which has been an issue in Seattle for the past couple of years, that would, besides them splitting who wears number 99, I think they would split who plays pancake with Russ, and that would make for a very long season.
Have you guys talked about the Russell Wilson, Dan Patrick comments yet?
We have not gotten into the Russell Wilson, Dan Patrick. I will give my take as someone, and I'd love to hear your take, Daniel. So as someone who's followed Russ through his career, and at least from a fan standpoint, feels like I understand with him, Russell Wilson's a very competitive individual who just wants to do really well all the
Yes.
time. He's a very professional athlete, which is something that I appreciate about him. He's a great franchise person, and he seems to love the brand that he represents. He's always shouts out to the Wisconsin, he always shouts out to Seattle. With his competitiveness and who he is and how he likes to succeed in anything he does, thus was his involvement with the Sounders. I think he's just getting frustrated in the sense that he's not able to compete at the way he is, and the offensive line thing in Seattle is fairly obvious to everybody. So the media tried to spin it as Russell wants out of Seattle. He's like Deshaun Watson. He wants to go somewhere
Right.
else. I take it as more as kind of like when Matt Nagy with the Bears came out and said, we're way better at this than we are. That's Russell just trying to motivate John Snyder and Pete Carroll and company to fix it. So what do you have from your perspective?
I would say that's pretty much spot on. I would say from on the football side, I mean, we don't really talk about that stuff. That's way out of my realm of expertise. But I would say all of those things, at least especially on the competitive side, I would agree with that take. And to me, I was proud of him for, he is the guy that kind of gives the politically correct answer. And I think you've seen really in this last year, him be more comfortable with, be more public about his opinions, whether it's on the political side with, Black Lives Matter, social justice that he did last year, which ultimately was a big part of him winning Man of the Year this last year. And then, with that on the football side. So I didn't really see it as much different as either when you're in a job or a relationship and say, hey, like we could improve on this.
Yeah.
It's not saying I'm quitting my job or leaving my relationship. It's just, the facts are the facts. So, but I think like you said, the competitive side, I would 100% agree with that. And Russ, like he wants to be the greatest ever. And so with that comes hard conversations and different things. So I was super proud of him.
That's awesome.
And so much, and you've seen this, Daniel, following, on the NFL side for a couple of years, to win a Super Bowl, so much has to go right.
So much.
The amount, like we were talking about, in terms of Patrick Mahomes, right? What does this do for him? It just proves he's immortal, just like everybody else.
Yes.
But for the Chiefs, it's like, you have all this to go right to get back to a Super Bowl, and then then you see the Bucks, and you can put whatever reason why. It's just so hard to get the stars to align. You can have 10 out of 10 things right, and 3 injuries hit, and a play call gets mixed up, and you're out. Easy as that. So I could definitely see. Yes, Russ has been a company man for a long time. Not to say he's still not a quote company man, kind of saying the things he needs to say, but guys are competitive, and
yeah,
Russ now has had a long, the beginning, right, winning that Super Bowl, then getting back to it. He has, I'm sure, seen and felt and feels, man, how hard it is, not just from himself personally, but also to get the rest of the team right. It's why football is such a great team game, is you need so many things, all the players on the same page, and so many things to go right. So, definitely proud of him. It's that's one of the things in following sports in Europe and America, right? The American sports stars usually don't give the good answers. But it was fun to hear Russ just kind of say, hey, here's where we're at. And, as you said, right, not to say good, bad, or the other, but here's how we could probably get a little better.
No, and I think to go back to even how we started this conversation at the Super Bowl is, like, to me, it was amazing what the Bucks did. Like, brand new team, no OTAs, nothing. And for whatever reason, that the feel in that stadium was like the Tom Brady, the Bucks, like, we're not gonna lose that game. So actually I had picked them to win before, and so it was crazy to think all the hype before and to actually see it happen. And then with that, I was reading on Peter King this morning how, say the play from last year's Super Bowl, the Wasp play, say that goes wrong and the 49ers win and like this whole Chiefs dynasty, everything like talk could be just a completely different conversation right now. So you're totally right. So many things, have to happen for you to win a Super Bowl. And even think about, it's been what, like 6 or 7 years since the Seahawks went, and that was a team that you thought was going to go on a run. So it's just, I think that's why people love the game so much, because the turnover, the parity is just so high.
Nice. Well, Daniel, before we end off our NFL segment here, and thanks so much for joining us as always. Want to hear your way too early Super Bowl picks for next year.
Way too early Super Bowl picks.
Like right now, before JJ Watt lands with what's going on, who do you got, Daniel? Who are we going to Vegas with?
Obviously Seahawks in the NFC for sure.
No doubt.
I'm never going to not pick them. As far as the opponent, man, that's a tough one. There's so many, I think the Chiefs are the obvious favorite, but I don't want to pick the obvious. I'm going to go I'm going to go Seahawks Bills in next year's Super Bowl.
That's really big.
I think Bills are pretty good. And there is one last question before I go, which I've never gotten the answer to this. Rutledge, how are you a Seahawks fan? I've never gotten to ask you that.
So we can go off script for that. So I'm actually from Vancouver, Canada. So that's where
you're
I'm
Canadian.
born.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I am half Canadian, and I was born in Vancouver, Canada. And in the my family had season tickets to the Kingdome back when the Seahawks played indoors.
So you're an OG.
I am an OG fan, so much so that I'm rooted in Seahawks. The play where Bo, help me out, Connor, famous Auburn running back, I just blanked on his name.
Jackson.
For the Raiders. Thank you, Bo Jackson. When Bo Jackson ran all over the Kingdome, including running over NFL draft bus, Brian the Bosworth.
Yes,
that was within a week of my birthday. So that's my claim back into Seahawks in the blood. So I'm a huge Seahawks fan just by proximity of living there in Canada. And we were there, when the Seahawks were bad, when they were even worse, when Mike Holmgren started, watched them do that run in Georgia where I had to explain to people what the Seahawks were because no one knew what they were.
Yeah.
So been a Seahawks fan forever. So to watch them win the Super Bowl in a dominating fashion was incredible.
Have you been to a game out here, like recently?
I went the last time. So obviously I've been to a lot of Kingdome games, including when one of my dad's friends dropped me on my head and I landed on the bleachers. The refs noticed my cry.
Those were hard bleachers.
They were hard bleachers, man. The Kingdome was loud. And I went to the stadium before it was CenturyLink, so the last sponsor.
Okay.
So
Old Quest Field.
Old Quest Field. Back in the OG Quest Field days, and we were playing, I remember we were walking in, and it was Donovan McNabb and the Eagles when they were hot. And it was Eagles Seahawks in Quest Field. And I remember looking at one of my friends, was like, yeah, I'm really excited. I think we have a shot at this. And the lady next to me in all Seahawks everything went, we have no shot in hell, but go Hawks, and just like walked in. So
just crushing dreams over here.
Just crushing dreams. But that was back in the Quest Field days when it was just as loud. It rained all game. We were soaked. We were cold, but that was awesome. So I haven't been recently. I have not been since we've switched over uniforms and seen Russ in person. I want to go.
I was saying Connor hasn't been to a game either, so maybe we can do a Friends Stream Sports weekend out here in Seattle. Hopefully, knock on wood, we have fans back this year.
Friends Stream Sports, Friends Live.
Right? Yeah,
we're down.
Perfect.
We are on Facebook now, so it's much easier to go Facebook Live. And make that happen.
Can we be on the Danger podcast?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hiya! We haven't recorded.
Let's do it.
I promise I'll behave.
I promise I will also behave.
I just want to see Connor just get in with the lineman for a couple snaps, just get him out to training camp.
Oh my gosh. Would Russell do a snap with me?
I don't know. We can maybe get that. We can see.
Can I go work out with DK? I just want to see if DK can hang in the iron house.
That's a different level. I might pay to watch that.
Did you ever, Daniel, off topic, did you see the meme that was DK Metcalf with a picture next to Hot Rod Blankenship, the kicker for the Colts? And it said the NFL is a wide variety sport.
Yes. That's why you got to love it.
That's why you gotta love it.
There was
Yeah,
a
what?
Sylvester. We're getting way off topic, but that's okay.
That's
There was
me.
a Sylvester Stallone quote. I think it was either Sylvester or Arnold who said, "You've never done a set of curls until you've thrown up doing a set of curls." And I feel like DK Metcalf is somebody who could embrace that quote.
Yeah, we should make that a shirt for him.
That would be a
Probably rip
shirt.
it off though.
I feel like working out with DK, the first thing he would say is, "All right, make sure you swallow the throw up, and then give me 10 more."
That'd be pretty
Yes.
funny.
So, Connor,
right.
what's your Super
thanks,
Bowl
guys.
pick?
Daniel, thank
Yeah. What are your guys' picks before I head out? Here?
real quick, you got to stay on for our Super Bowl picks.
Yes.
I'm going Bucks. One of my things is when someone is hot and has it going on, I don't pick against that person until they aren't around anymore. So
Okay.
Tom Brady's on top, staying Bucks. Versus here's to warm us up for some halftime hot takes. Dolphins.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
okay.
hot.
I think
Okay.
they take a massive step. I think Tua takes a massive step forward. I think, they always play hard. They're getting better players, and they have 2 first-round and 2 second-round draft picks this year, so they can draft some immediate impact guys. And it's not like the AFC East is incredibly difficult. And minus the Bills. Dolphins would probably have to come in as a wild card, but New England's still going to be down. Jets are probably still going to be down, so I could definitely see the Dolphins taking a massive step forward and challenging and getting to the Super Bowl.
It's a good pick.
I'm going to keep my AFC pick out of the AFC East and saying the Buffalo Bills are going to go all the way. They're going to be back. This Chiefs loss made them human, and I think the Bills team, this year we watched them, they seem like they're getting there. The fan in me wants to see the Seahawks go. Try to be objective, not say Seahawks for everything, sports minor broadcaster. I'm picking the Rams. I really like the Matt Stafford trade. I think Sean McVay is going to be, if you look at the strange coaching carousel and the strange dynamics that was in Detroit and what Stafford was able to accomplish, even after having Calvin Johnson, who's an incredible receiver, walk away, and he was able to hold it together. I think being with an organization and a coaching staff that can piece stuff together will work. If they add J.J. Watt, it's going to be awful. I don't want to see that happen at all. But so the Seahawks fan, I'd love to see my Hawks go to the Super Bowl. I think the Rams are going to be tough in the NFC East, or the NFC West. So I have Bills, Rams.
I was that trade. It made me a little concerned. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, made you see some question marks, and that ESPN notification came through. He said, that's not good.
Yeah, I think Stafford's good. I think, in the short term, it's great for them. Maybe not the best long-term trade, but they're definitely all in right now.
When have the Rams been worried about the long term?
That is true.
They are continually just doing the short-term thing, which they're at least staying interesting.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to do it. That's for sure. Maybe they're the next team that wins the LA Super Bowl or the hometown Super Bowl.
Could be wild. Well, Daniel, thank you for coming out. We really appreciate your takes.
We get a little run there, but...
Yeah, of course. Friend Stream Sport. It's always a pleasure coming on. I'm still waiting for my merch though.
We'll bring it to you and we'll throw it to you like fish in Pike Place Market.
Deal. Thanks, guys.
Right. Thanks, Daniel.
Well, thanks so much. That was Daniel Mogg joining us. That was a lot of fun.
It was awesome.
That was a lot of fun. Maybe we do more Zoom shows. We have more drop-ins. We call it Friends Drop In.
Friends Drop In. Hey, we could be on the Danger podcast. I hope.
We have to send him merch. So, and in the note we can then write, "We sent you merch like we said we would. Now get us on the Danger Cast."
Yep.
Because you said you would. That's leverage.
That's leverage. Something else that is leverage is how much leverage comes out of our most popular segment ever, the halftime hot takes. We're actually going to take halftime hot takes this year back to our first sport. We're going back to NASCAR. So for those of you that don't know, as we mentioned, this year is the 20th anniversary passing away of Dale Earnhardt, who passed away racing at the Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt was one of the best NASCAR champions of all time to have 7 champions, someone who he tied with, who was Richard Petty, known as the King. As in many sports, there's always a debate of who is the best. So our halftime hot take tonight is, who do you have, Dale Earnhardt or Richard Petty, as the best NASCAR driver? So Connor, what's your take?
Rutledge, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. I think very hard, right? You're comparing eras, which is always difficult. And in the same way that it's, especially in like the NBA, for example, it's difficult to compare eras when you're talking about, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell versus Michael Jordan and LeBron James. It's like, well, we can't put Wilt Chamberlain in there because he's just so good. You can't compare him. His stats were so blown out of proportion. You can't compare to anything else. Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator, number 3, 428 top 10s, 76 wins, 7 championships, as you said. That's stout, right? Richard Petty's stats, although in a different era, were so good. Like, you can't compare it to anything. That's how good he was. So 712 top 10s for Richard Petty, 200 wins, and the main thing was tying on that 7 championships. So I'm going Richard Petty just because his stats are so, like, you can't compare them because his stats are so outrageously inflated compared to Earnhardt.
I think I'm going to actually say that is a good way to look at it. It could be stats, but then you have to look at the pure breed of the sport. When we compare other players, what is the conversation of Michael Jordan to LeBron James or other quarterbacks as the game has changed? NASCAR changed over time because of the research, development, and standardization of NASCAR. So NASCAR, of course, is stock car racing. But back in Richard Petty days, when he first started in the 60s and 70s, not everyone had the money to work on their car. And the Pettys would maybe be like, oh, if we put on this carburetor that's a little bit bigger, but still in regulation, and make these adjustments, we'll dominate. Because Richard Petty used to dominate back in the day because no one else was able to do as good mechanically as what he could do. Kind of like when Nebraska used to dominate in the early college football days when they started weightlifting and no one else was weightlifting. I take Dale Earnhardt as better because in the 80s and 90s, when Earnhardt started to dominate, that's when the sport was very regimented and everyone had to play within certain rules. And it really mattered about how much you outdrove someone else. There's a great quote in the movie called 3, which was a made-for-TV movie about Dale's life, to which when he meets Richard Childress, who was his owner, who was a no one, Richard said, "We're going to build a car that you can bump and you can thump and you can run into people, but that will also still drive and go fast." And that's how Dale got onto his team, and that's how they engineered a car that was able to help him dominate. So he was the intimidator because he was able to intimidate people in a sport that was very much an even playing field. So I think when everyone has the same abilities, everyone has the same shoes, I think he was the better one. So I'm taking Dale Earnhardt in this week's halftime hot take.
Wow. All right. That's pretty hot and fast.
It's hot and fast. Those 4 tiles are dialed in.
Pretty fast.
Got to pull into pit road, get 4 tiles and a splash of Sunoco racing fuel as we go into our next segment. So It's time for our NBA talk, Connor. Who's our team this week?
This week, we're talking about the 2020 NBA champions, LA Lakers. So we're reviewing them just for all of our listeners out there. What we do is we pick one team a week, kind of review their record, where they're at, talk about their upcoming games, and maybe give a couple storylines or two that we're following.
So the Lakers this year right now are 22-7, but they're actually second in the East to the Jazz. They're 9-4 at home and 12-3 on the road. And this week is an interesting schedule for them. So they lost to Denver with an interesting LeBron take on that Denver Nuggets game that's in news and came out. They play Minnesota on the road. And then to finish out the week, they have the Nets and the Heat at home. But besides some LeBron James stories, which are very small, the Lakers are all about AD. All about Anthony Davis. He leads their scoring, he leads their field goal percentage, and he's a top 3 producer for their 3-point percentage shootings. But he's not okay. What is up with him, Connor?
Yeah, Anthony Davis has tendon nogosis going on in his Achilles. No, he's had a nagging heel injury on the Achilles, um, and he had you know, he's going to be out for the next 3 weeks. Kind of bottom line, right? I think for Anthony Davis, that's a big man. It's just a usage thing, right? He's 7 foot, has a ton of weight on that foot. They played deep in last season, right? And you know, I think that this could actually be a real blessing in disguise if this is really just kind of the 9 games before the All-Star break. If the Lakers can, you know, stay, let's just say 6-3 over that 9 game stretch, maybe, you know, maybe lose a spot in the conference standings, maybe not. But, you know, and then give some other guys some opportunities to excel. I think that really could be a blessing in disguise in terms of Anthony Davis and his injury.
It'll be interesting to see how they rebound and how people sort of pick up from him being out, because they have leaned on him so much. He had an MRI, so he hasn't completely destroyed that Achilles. Like you said, it should be up to the All-Star break with these 9 games. It's about 2 to 3 weeks. Connor, what is your take with the Lakers? So even though they are second, they're going to slip. What is your take with the Lakers kind of sitting in second place right now, where they were so dominant in the bubble and during last year, but the Jazz are pulling ahead in the West?
Man, Rudy Gobert, that's the story, right? He's a stud. You know, I think yet again, it's not, if the seeds hold true. Let's say the seeds are what they are today, right? You've got the Warriors is the 8th seed, and then you've got what was it? I'm forgetting off the top of my head who the 7th seed is, but the San Antonio Spurs are the 6th seed, and kind of, you know, as you kind of look through potential playoff matchups, being the 3 seed and playing San Antonio without a superstar as in your first round might not be the end of the world, right? I think that it's an older veteran team. You know, you get somebody like Kyle Kuzma. You know, it's kind of like, all right, dude, time for you to step up and shine here. You know, I think that the Lakers, yet again, this could be a real blessing in disguise to give Anthony Davis some rest, get his foot right for a nice deep playoff run. You know, the Lakers, the Lakers still have they've got, I believe it was roughly a 10 points per game differential. Jazz are about 9.5 points per game differential. So both teams are beating teams by a lot. You know, it's not a, I guess the way I see it really yet again is, you know, if Anthony Davis gets his foot right and gets that rest, because he is a little bit older, man, the rest of the playoffs could be a real issue for the rest of the league.
It could be really big. This could be also the time to see is, what do the Lakers do? You know, I'm with you. Does Kyle Kuzma step up? Does LeBron James put the team on his back? Does he flop harder? If you haven't seen, LeBron James got called out for flopping and warned by the NBA this past Sunday when playing the Nuggets for some pretty fake injuries, to where younger players on the Nuggets just yelled at him, "You're flopping." And with no fans in the stands, you can hear that type of on-court talk. So we'll see what they do to evolve, how they go. I am with you, though, that if you're a Lakers fan, you shouldn't be worried about what's going on. AD will rest up. He'll be better. They're still a talented enough team, still second in the West to make a run. So that's with the Lakers. We have in our picks, we're going to talk about some of the rest of the games through their week, and we'll also talk about what we think they're going to do with these 3 games coming up on their schedule. But another schedule that has popped up is today. Actually, we had 2 games played earlier this afternoon. Is while the Super Bowl is going for us, it is now the round of 16 knockout round for the Champions League. So if you're not a major soccer fan, or football as it's called across the pond, this is where the top tier, top competing professional teams all over Europe compete against each other to play each other. Connor and I are going to take through, and with the round of 16, talk about who our must, bust, and trust teams are. But Connor, this is a little bit different of a tournament. So explain to our fans and those watching, how does the round of 16 work?
Yep. So it's a little more straightforward than the group stage for those that aren't as familiar with soccer tournaments. But the idea is you play a home and away, and the first tiebreaker is obviously who scores the most goals, right? Whoever scores the most goals. The big thing is that the first tiebreaker, because all these games are such low scoring, is away goals. So for example, Barcelona played PSG today. PSG won 4-1. PSG Paris Saint-Germain was in Barcelona. So now Barcelona not only they can't win by 3 goals in Paris. If it's 3-0, Barcelona has to score more than 5 goals. They have to score. It has to be 4-0 for Barcelona to be able to not just match Paris on the goal sheet, but actually go ahead in total. So the big thing there as a soccer fan is, especially in this tournament, is to think about away goals. So you play 16, and because the continent of Europe is a little smaller, you kind of redraw each round. So you don't quite know who your next opponent is, even if you win. Even if you win this round. So really excited to do a little must bust or trust UEFA Champions League edition. We do have a few soccer fans that do follow us, so we can't wait to hear your thoughts. So let's kick it off with must. Rutledge, who are you going with? Who's your must team here?
My must team is a great team out of Germany and a great town if you haven't been to it. I'm taking Bayern Munich, and they are just strong, and they're the team to beat, and they just dominate. They dominate the Bundesliga, and they dominate a bunch of other stages. So shout out to Bayern. They're a fast, strong team. They're third in attack speed with rated off of the article The Athletic did, and they're fourth in shots. They play Lazio coming up, so I feel like that should be a pretty good out for them, but they'll have a really good showing. So who's your must?
I'm picking Man City. I heard an interesting stat over the weekend in Premier League play. They were playing Tottenham 1-3-0. Do you know the last time that Man City trailed in a game?
When?
Was November against Tottenham. They haven't trailed in 15 games. Man City is, and this is without their 2 best offensive players. They're crushing it. Liverpool's starting to kind of give up the league, Premier League. I know we're talking Champions League, but for me, it's important to, if you have to win multiple trophies, right? It's really hard to win 3 trophies, but it's a little bit easier if you can kind of wrap one up a little earlier. So it seems like Man City is going to win Prem League a little, not easily, but they don't have to put their foot on the gas as hard. And then their team will only get better when Kevin De Bruyne comes back, as well as Sergio Aguero. Pep Guardiola is, he is the Beethoven of soccer managers. That guy, he is a tortured genius that only compares himself to the greatest of all time. So I think Man City is going to be a real buzzsaw of a team to go against in this Champions League.
Well, that steps us up to bust, and I'm going to say my bust is really hard to defend here because my bust, when I wrote this yesterday, I have PSG, I have Paris Saint-Germain, who, like Connor said, plugged it in kind of gracefully there. They won 4-1 against Barcelona, who in my opinion looked really dangerous. They have Neymar out. It seems like today that didn't bother them, but how is that going to do when they play again in March? When they play their next round, they also get extremely heavily fouled. So while they may have come out today in really good form and done really well in the sense of the tiebreakers for them, how do they bounce that back when a little bit more time has come? And then are they able to really sort of hold on and make it work? So that is who I think, while even though they won today, because it's a 2-game series, I think they could bust apart really bad and it could get really ugly for them.
And to defend your bust, PSG, they, Barcelona's defense is, and this is from, I'm a Barcelona fan. We're saying our fanship here. Barcelona's defense is probably the worst left in Champions League. Maybe not statistically speaking, but they don't have it together on the back end. And PSG always has, in recent memory, a ton of good offensive players. So this is Barcelona. They are trying to thread that needle of staying relevant and rebuild. So they're not really going for, you're going for Champions League glory, but you look at the team out there. I mean, you had a lot of young guys out there and players that I think they're trying to groom to put together a next big time Barcelona run. My bust is Liverpool. Over the weekend, Liverpool lost again. They need to work off of a lot of momentum, and they just don't have it. And not only that, as things are going a little poorly, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane are seeming to have some internal strife with each other. Their goalkeeper, Allison Becker, his nickname is called Allison Blunderland because of all the blunders that he's had at goal. And I heard an interesting stat that there has been 13 different center back pairings for Liverpool this season, which you need consistency at the back end to be effective at the highest levels. And 13 is probably like 11 too many. So Liverpool's my bust.
Bring us to our last segment of Who Do We Trust? So I am going to go with a good old Connorism of not betting against those unless they make you bet against them. And I'm going to pick Juventus. Now, Juventus may not be the rising star of like a Biner in the must category, but Ronaldo is still one of the greatest stars in the world. And they have a defense that is growing based on what Adrian Pirlo, if I say that wrong, let me know, his vision. They have taken a lot of steps to adjust. I think you can trust them to go at least pretty deep in the tournament and do good in this round of 16. So I am going to go with Juventus going forward.
And don't forget Juventus with Wes McKennie, the American, who not just getting playing time in Juventus, but is like incredibly important for Juventus. So I always love that being over here in America. My trust team and the team that I believe is least likely to get upset is Atletico Madrid. Diego Simeone is a very steadying hand right there. He's always hung his hat on defense, but now, you've got Luis Suarez that is just, I mean, he's having his renaissance. João Felix is coming into his own. Do they have the fortitude to beat a Bayern or a Man City? Or Juventus could be a little bit of a toss-up. I don't know about that, but they're not going to get upset by anybody. So I trust Atletico Madrid to make a nice deep run, and those guys aren't getting upset.
All right, so that's our must, bust, and trust for the Champions League. This is a big show for us, guys. We thank you so much for coming out, checking us out. It is Tuesday. It is 8 o'clock. We're on Twitch. We're on Zoom. You also check us out. We've launched our Facebook. We have a Twitter now. We are on YouTube. We have a podcast. We're growing, Connor.
We had a new segment, Friends Drop In.
Friends Drop In, right? So new segment, new things, same friends, same sport, same real time. And it's now time to say goodbye with our picks. So Connor, take us through our picks, and then who are you taking in each pick?
Got it. So let's do this, Rutledge. I'll read and go one at a time, and I'll read the teams in the game, and you give your pick, and I'll give my pick.
Love it.
So, so this Thursday in 2 days, we on the NBA, we have the Nets versus the LA Lakers.
I'm actually going to go Lakers. I know we talked about no AD. I think we're going to see the team kind of shift. I think LeBron's going to make it work. He's not going to take a loss to the Nets likely. So I will see actually LA will show that they are more than just one player.
Yep, I'm saying Lakers as well. I think that there's going to be a lot of good positive energy that will take the Lakers over the hump against the Nets. Friday we have Jazz versus the Clippers.
I'm going the Utah Jazz. They're hot and they are playing in all different types of keys right now. So they're going to keep making some music and winning games.
Beautiful. Yeah, I too am sticking with the Jazz. I love being an Orlando Magic fan. I love a good big man. Rudy Gobert is crushing it. So all about those Jazz. Going from the NBA to Champions League, here we have Sevilla out of Spain versus Borussia Dortmund out of the Bundesliga. So, Rutledge, you got Sevilla or Borussia Dortmund?
I have Sevilla. They're actually one of the more productive teams using crosses in the Champions League, and I think that'll help them. Dortmund's nothing to snooze at, but I think they're going to be able to use their techniques to game their way through a win.
Yeah, I think good solid pick. I'm going Dortmund though. I think they've got a lot of just a ton of offensive playmakers, and I think that they could overpower that midfield of Sevilla. And another American making it further, Gio Reyna. So I got to be going for the Americans here. Finally, our last pick. Who's winning the poll for the Daytona Road Course Challenge?
I am going the road course king and reigning NASCAR champion, Chase Elliott. He had a great exposure during the Rolex 24-hour, plus the Busch class was during the road course. So Chase has had some really good experience. I think he will do well and place himself on the pole.
Nice. I'm going Martin Truex. Saw a stat. He is the only driver who has finished in the top 10 in each of the last 5 road course races. That's dating back to his Sonoma Raceway in 2019. I think he's going to have a nice rebound from placing 25th at Daytona, and I think he's going to be leading the pack here this weekend.
There we go. Well, that's our show, everyone. We had friends drop in. We did some must, bust, and trust. We talked multiple different sports. This has been Tuesday. This has been 8 o'clock. This has been Friends Stream Sports. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Become our Twitter follower. We're out there for you. We have a podcast. We're out there for you wherever you want to be. Be our friend. And for Friends Stream Sports, I'm Rutledge.
And I'm Connor.
And have a great night.
And see you later.